Okay, so now we know how to multiply binomials by binomials. But what happens when we have a binomial times a trinomial? We can't use FOIL, right? We can't use that acronym, but we can still use the same concept of, I know I need to multiply this 6x by everything in this quantity and this 5 by everything in this quantity. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're basically going to treat this like two monomial distribution problems and then combine all those like terms together at the end. So we'll go ahead and distribute the 6x first, pretending like it's just 6x times this trinomial. And then we'll go ahead and do the same with the 5 and pretend like the 6x wasn't there. And then at the end, when we add them all together, it's going to simplify, and it's like we never split this up in the first place, okay? So, like I said, we're just going to ignore the 6x first, or the 5, use the 6x, and distribute that term in. So, again, ignoring the 5, so it's going to become 6x times 2x squared, 6x times negative 3x or minus 3x, and 6x times a minus 5 or negative 5, okay? So we can write out all of that multiplication. And we're adding 6x minus 3x. Make sure you carry the sign that's directly in front of whatever you're multiplying, okay? So since we're multiplying a 3x here, we're going to carry the minus sign that's right in front of it with it. Okay? So now we can go ahead through and simplify all of these terms. So we end up with a 6x times a 2x squared. So that's going to be 6 times 2 is 12, and then x to the 1 times x squared, we're going to be adding the exponents, so that's going to become x cubed, okay? And now we have a 6x times a negative 3x, and that's going to become 6 times negative 3 is negative 18, x times x is x squared, so that's going to be a negative 18 x squared, yes, but we can just write that as minus 18 x squared, okay? And then our last multiplication problem here is negative 5 times 6x, so that's going to be a negative 30 times x, so negative 30x, which we're just going to, instead of doing plus negative 30x, we're just going to do minus 30x. Okay, so that takes care of the first half of this distribution problem. Now we have to do the same thing, but with the 5. So it's going to be 5 times the 2x squared times the minus 3x and times the minus 5. Okay, so we are going to combine those or multiply those, and then we're going to have two different polynomials that we're going to be adding together. So then this just becomes a polynomial addition problem. So we'll go ahead and write out 5 times 2x squared plus 5 negative 3x plus 5 times a negative 5, okay? Also, so we'll go through and just finish out that multiplication. So we have 5 times 2 is 10x squared plus 5 times a negative 3 is a negative 15 times x is negative 15x. So instead of writing plus, I'm just going to write minus 15x. Sorry, this marker is kind of going light. Hopefully you can still see it. And then 5 times a negative 5 is just minus 25. Okay? So now we have two different polynomials, and we have to add these together because they were added together originally. Also, I want to tell you the code word for this video is bulldogs. Okay? So now let's go ahead and add these two together. And remember, you can either do that vertically or horizontally, but I'm just going to think of it as, since it's kind of already written vertically, I'm just going to do it in my head because I'm running out of space, obviously. But if you wanted to work this out more on your paper, you're welcome to do that. So we have a 12x cubed, and I have no other x cubed terms, okay? So this is going to end up just coming down 12x cubed, okay? And now we have a minus 18x squared term in this polynomial. In this polynomial, the only x squared term that we have is a 10x squared. So that means that we are now combining a negative 18x squared, with this 10x squared. And so what's a negative 18x squared plus 10x? That's going to be a minus 8x squared. Okay? So we took care of that term. So here are the terms we already took care of. Where'd my black marker go? It is MIA. That's okay. I will use the red one. So we took care of this x cubed term. We took care of the x squared term. So now we have the x term to worry about. So what's a minus 30x minus 15x, right? We're adding a negative 15x. So we're going to be decreasing a 30x by 15, so that is minus 45x, okay? So we took care of the x term, and now the only thing we have left is minus 25, so that just gets tacked on at the end. Sorry that I had to squeeze it, and it's little, ran out of room. But our final answer is going to be 12x cubed minus 8x squared minus 45x minus 25, okay? We combined all of our like terms, and that's what we ended up with. So now, the last thing, which is like just a super long variation of this, is going to be multiplying a trinomial by a trinomial, which again is, instead of doing two different polynomials that we added together in the end, it's going to become 3 different polynomials that we add together in the end. So I'll stop that here and make another video of that, so that can be helpful for you on one of the independent practices. Okay, so now for our trinomial times our trinomial. We have the quantity of 2y squared plus 3y minus 1 times the quantity of 3y squared minus 5y plus 2. So, like I said, we treat this like 3 separate monomial distribution problems. So that means that our first monomial distribution is going to be with 2y squared going into 3y squared minus 5y and positive 2, okay? So we can write that out by just saying 2y squared. And as you saw in the last video, this is going to take up a lot of room. So if I am writing too small, I apologize. Hopefully you can just make it big screen. Or if I'm like erasing things, like right now, It's because I realize I need to make more room for things, okay? So we have our 2y squared times our 3y squared plus, always adding, and we're ignoring these for now, plus 2y squared times minus 5y plus our 2y squared times our positive 2. Okay? So now when we simplify this, we're going to have 6 times y squared times y squared, which we're going to add those exponents to get y to the 4th. And then we have a 2y squared minus 5y, so that means we're going to end up with a negative number. So minus 10, 2 times negative 5 is going to be a minus 10y squared times y to the 1, means we add those and we get our y cubed, okay? Plus 2y squared times 2, which just means we end up with 2 times y squared, or 4 times y squared. Okay, so that's our first distribution problem. Now we are focusing on, and of course, my red is now dying on me, so we're going to use green for this one. Okay, green for 3y times all of these. Okay, so we have 3y times 3y squared, because now we're ignoring these two and we're just focusing on 3y and distributing it in, plus 3y times a negative 5y plus 3y times a positive 2. Okay? So when we combine, we end up getting 3 times 3 is 9. Y times y squared is a y cubed. Now for our next one, 3 times negative 5 is a negative 15, so we know it's going to be a minus 15. Y times y, or y to the 1 plus 1, is going to be y squared. So that's going to be minus 15 y squared. And now we have 3 times 2 is 6, or times y, so plus 6y. Okay? And that ended up being positive, so it's a plus. So now, will my red work? Not at all. Back to black. So now for our negative 1, remember we're going to keep that minus sign with the 1 because it's the sign right in front of the number. So you always want to keep that sign with the number. And we're going to be multiplying that. We're ignoring these two terms of the binomial, and we're just going to multiply this negative 1 by everything. Okay? So again, ignore the first two terms. We're just focusing on negative 1, distributing it into the second binomial. So we have negative 1 times a 3y squared, okay, plus, always plussing, negative 1 times a negative 5y plus a negative 1 times a 2, okay? So that ends up being negative 1. Basically, whenever you multiply by a negative 1 or divide by a negative 1, you're keeping the value the same and just flipping the sign, right? So now we're going to end up with a negative 3y squared, a positive, because it was negative, positive 5y, and a minus 2, because it was plus 2 before, now it's minus 2. So now we have our 3 trinomials that we are going to be adding together. Okay, so if I had any other color, that'd be wonderful. Maybe this invisible kind of red circle could be applicable now. So we have only 6y to the 4th. That's our only y to the 4th term. So that is going to end up just carrying through. That's just going to be 6. Whoops. I'm gonna use black because none of these other markers are working. So the 6y to the 4th can't combine with anything, so it's just going to stay the same. 6y to the 4th. Let me just section this out. Okay. Okay. So we have 6y to the 4th. Now let's look at our y cubed terms. So we have a negative 10y cubed. We have a positive 9y cubed. And we have no y cubed in this one. So we're only going to be combining a negative 10 plus 9. So a negative 10. Okay, that's our y cubed term. For our y squared, we have y squared in every single one. Okay, so we've already taken care of y to the 4th, y cubed. Now we have y squared. So we have a 4y squared, a negative 15y squared, and minus 3y squared. Okay? And now for our y term, we have no y term in the top. Oh, we just got rid of y squared. Okay. So we have no y term in the top polynomial, so we're done with that. We only have one y term here and one y term here, so that's going to end up being, and I'm just going to write it on the next line. I really apologize for this. I ran out of room. So that's going to end up being, just for our y squared term, or I'm sorry, our y term, 6y plus a 5y. And now for our constants, we can cross out our y's. And we have only one constant in this whole thing. So that one constant is just going to carry with it minus 2. Okay? So now to get our final polynomial, we're going to simplify all of our addition and subtraction left, or combining of like terms, and get our final answer. So we're going to end up with, nothing combines with 6y to the 4th, like we already talked about. So 6y to the 4th, and then a negative 10y cubed plus 9. It's going to still be a negative, but it's only going to be 1, right? So negative y cubed, because we say any variable with a coefficient of 1 is just, you can just write the sign. Okay? So now we have three different terms that we're combining together. We have 4 minus 15 minus 3. So you can think of it as, I know minus 15 minus 3 is going to give me a negative 18, and then I'm adding 4 to that, so that's going to be minus 14y squared. And then we have 6y plus 5y. 6 plus 5 is 11, and it's positive, so plus 11y. And then we couldn't combine the 2 with anything, so that's just going to drop down. Huge minus sign. Minus 2. Okay, so this is our final answer. 6y to the 4th, y cubed, minus 14y squared, plus 11y, minus 2. And I know this problem seemed really big and really long, but it's just 3 monomial distribution problems and then a polynomial addition problem. You're just adding all of the polynomials you get together at the end. So just be careful with your signs and make sure you actually go through and get all of the like terms. So what you can do is kind of cross off each of the terms that you end up using once you're done, so you can keep track and not like double count or forget or whatever. So again, I know this is a long problem, but hopefully it's not too hard since it's just kind of like building on the concepts we've already learned. But of course, if you're confused, if you need help, if you have any questions, please go to office hours every day from either 9 to 11:30 in the morning or 1 to 2 p.m. So good luck, have fun, and I hope to hear from you soon.